Hey, welcome back to Chatting with Chet. Today, I have the great pleasure of having Phil Sellers with us. Phil, we're here in D.C., lots of great speakers, lots of great content. What really stuck out to you the most today?
You know, I really enjoyed getting to learn a little more about robotic process automation and just where it kind of fits in a company's software portfolio. The thing that really sticks out to me the most is that it's really complementary to the rest of the software you've already got deployed, and it can be an important bridge technology between your legacy and your modern software strategy.
One of the things that I always talk about is RPA gives you the ability to stitch those disparate systems together. Because we can log into Oracle, we can log into SAP, we can log into that Citrix screen, those old green screens that we grew up on. So you don't really see it competing with or causing any problems inside the current software setups.
No, not at all. And it's one of those softwares where it can be used in so many different ways. I really appreciated the speaker who talked about it within the terms of IT use cases. So disaster recovery and automating your full disaster recovery run books and things like that using an RPA.
Oh, you sound a little technical. Are you one of those technical guys? So what I've been told, and I'm teasing you along, is heavy hitter on the infrastructure side, the back end work. So where do you see RPA playing in infrastructure and playing with infrastructure?
Well, you know, from an infrastructure standpoint, at least here today with a federal government focused audience, it seems like the adoption is still kind of in its early phases. So, you know, the thing that really stuck out to me from an infrastructure standpoint is how much we can kind of influence the scale and the scalability of these solutions by kind of taking the lessons we've learned from running things like vSphere and other technologies in the data center and helping the folks on the business who are oftentimes kind of driving the RPA value and maybe even becoming the programmers in a lot of cases for the RPA software. We can help them solve the infrastructure dilemma of how do we make this work at scale? How do we grow up the processes? Because that's the practice that we live in from an operations and engineering standpoint. We build those sorts of processes to move things through a pipeline, dev, test, UAT, into production. We have those best practices already, and then we have the infrastructure to deploy virtual desktops that these robotic workers are going to be logging into and using all of our existing systems.
That's great, and that plays right into what I hear when I talk to the market all the time. One of the great untapped sources in companies today are the infrastructure guys. They don't let y'all play with the new tools a lot of time, and I'm really interested to see what happens when the hardcore IT guys put on that RPA lens and start to look at the processes and the things that they're doing today, and how can RPA help them in the future. Do you see that as well, that there's room for growth there?
I do, and it's interesting because I've done a little bit of development work in my past, and I would never say I'm a developer. Don't ever accuse me of that.
Well, we can train you. We can make you a UiPath developer. The courses are out there.
But you know, it's one of those things where I understand the concepts of object-oriented languages, and so some of these programmatic concepts are easier for me, and that's coming into infrastructure really hard these days. And so, you know, all of the infrastructure can be programmed, it can be called by an API. A lot of infrastructure guys like me don't really understand that. And so you take something like this, it's a very approachable interface and a usable way of interacting with the existing tools, and you can make really valuable plays on the infrastructure side too. So I know that my directors encouraged me to go out and get the community edition and spin it up and try to do projects and stuff. And you know, that was one of the cool things with the hackathon today. Seeing, you know, what people could accomplish in 6 hours. You know,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Somebody, and here you go.
That's great. So if you're to bundle it all up and look at the thing in its entirety, what is it that you find most appealing about RPA or you know, intelligent RPA as we move? What was the real key for you?
So for me, it was really around the value proposition, and the thing that stuck out to me was I heard it several times from several of the customers, which, by the way, the speakers here weren't just UiPath employees. They were customers on stage talking about their experiences with the UiPath software.
I actually happen to be a former UiPath customer. I was the executive director at HP for a while, so we're eating our own dog food. We're bringing people that have actually used. But what was it that really got you?
Well, what got me about it is the fact that you can really see the value proposition, and it propagates on and on. So when you deploy an RPA process, you basically can self-fund your own innovation. That's huge.
That is huge.
So, I mean, most of us are dealing with shrinking budgets on the IT side. We're having to try and find innovative ways to fund innovation. I mean, just, we're having to get creative to be creative.
Yeah.
And so this is a great example of one of those technologies that can really pay off. And if we can free up the man hours and free up the resources from other places to deploy into new innovation projects, that's what we're really after. Because at the end of the day, keeping the lights on takes a lot of our budget.
That's exactly right. It's interesting that you draw that out. I can remember. I've been doing this close to a decade, and in the old days, it was how many heads can we cut? What can we take to the P&L today? And that was short-sighted, and that was early in the game. Now it's about, not only how do we get this department started, but how does this department fund itself going forward? And you nailed it right on the head. They become self-funding, and each time you do a new project, we add money back to the kitty for the company at large to help expand that growth. So
there's so few opportunities where that's the case. My wife is a sustainability person, and
fantastic.
so she does all sorts of saving the earth kind of activities. But this is the definition of sustainability. When you can pay for yourself by doing what you're doing, it's a win-win situation.
So you heard it here, RPA self-funding. That means we're doing it for free. Hey Phil, we talked a little bit about infrastructure. We talked a little bit about the back end of business. Let's talk about the cloud and infrastructure and RPA. How do you see those things playing together? When the cloud came, everybody thought it was going to solve all our problems, and we just moved our problems to somebody else's data center. How do you see RPA playing in this realm?
So a couple of different ways. One, I think because of the way that the software is designed, it works with your legacy apps, it works with your cloud apps, it works with your SaaS apps. You really can deploy solutions that bridge all these different places that you run IT all into a solution. And so that's why I say I love the fact that it's a bridge technology between all these different solutions. And cloud to me is just an operating model. So you can do cloud inside of your data center. It's just about the fact that you increase agility and you automate things. So, cloud to me is really compatible with robotic process automation, because at the heart, both of them are about automating process. And that's really what drives the value of cloud. So you can look at infrastructure solutions on-prem and get the same sort of value by creating these processes that are automated that trigger off of different environmental variables or based on a file coming in and things like that. And that's not necessarily new, but we've been doing that in PowerShell and other technologies for a long time. But what's different about this is it gives you the ability to interact with your native software not through an API.
Right.
So you can go to a Win32 application and you can screen scrape, or you can go to a browser and pull down. My industry's insurance. Well, we do a lot of document interchange with third-party underwriters and things like that. So there's tons of portals to go and log into and download docs, and then we manipulate docs, and then we pass it along in the value chain. That kind of thing is a perfect example of SaaS. They're providing us a SaaS application. We log in and we gather our documents for our customers, pull them back down, and then we have to do some doc prep and pass them along to our retailers.
And boy, all of those things are just right in the wheelhouse of RPA.
Yeah.
So that's exciting to hear that whether it be the cloud, whether it be on-prem, RPA is able to interact with these disparate systems, do the extracts, do the changes, and then load it back to the systems that it needs to be loaded.
And the beautiful thing for a company like us is that, it's impossible for us to get APIs to some of our partners.
Right.
But they're critical partners. We're doing, millions and millions of dollars of business with them. But without APIs, how do you automate it?
You have to work through that user interface.
And so this is a beautiful, beautiful solution, because guess what? That robot can work 24/7. There's no labor laws that say he can't.
That's right.
So you get that kind of benefit from automating these tasks, and
that's great.
I think that's where the opportunity lies for government and for commercial companies like myself.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Phil. We enjoyed having you here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Chat with Chat.